Hey there, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Colorado Conversations. We have a very special guest. You're going to know who it is once I change the camera. You ready? Here it is, Michael Konopasek, of course, longtime Fox 31 viewers. Remember Konopasek anchoring on the weekends, reporting. I mean, I think we started here about the same time.
Yeah, you started just before me. I got here and I was like, I need to talk to Drew because Drew just started and he's going to show me the ropes.
So he just signed all those forms you got to sign. Now I got to do it too with HR. So Konopasek, great to see you, Michael Konopasek. Of course, last time we talked here on Colorado Conversations, you were the communications manager over at Denver International Airport. You've taken on a new role. You're with a new company now, so I can't wait to talk more about it because this is something that impacts all of us. Whether you think it does or not, it truly does. So let's get into it. Michael Konopasek, now the communications manager for Auror.
Yes, you said that right.
Tell me what Auror is.
Auror is a crime intelligence platform. It started in New Zealand. We are a global company, and what we do is we make sure that retailers have a platform where they can document crime after it occurs. And that is super important when it comes to the world of organized retail crime. We are connecting the dots with police agencies across the United States and around the world to make sure that we surface those repeat offenders. So I'm going to throw a stat at you real quick, all right?
Well,
so
it's important.
It is super important. In Denver, the top 10% of offenders are responsible for 71% of retail crime. That's huge. So if you can just surface these repeat offenders and coordinate, it's all about the intelligence and the resources that police have and don't have, and making sure that they can really focus in on these repeat offenders. If we can get them off the streets, and you know, it helps a lot.
For sure. I mean, you talk about if you take a couple away, that would take away a large percentage of the retail crime that impacts us all. That's going to be my next question here, Kono, is because we may think, well, these major companies, major brands, they all have insurance, so why do I feel bad if a major company loses a couple of bucks here and there? It's not a couple of bucks when it comes to this organized crime, but it has an impact on all of us that we see every day.
It's very impactful. Let me talk about two things when it comes to impact. I was just sharing with you before we started chatting here that I was on my way here and I stopped at Walgreens. Now, this Walgreens is in my neighborhood. I've been at this Walgreens before. We're all used to seeing certain products. I shouldn't say we're all used to, but a lot of us are used to seeing certain products behind the plexiglass. You have to wait for the store associate. And that was true at my neighborhood location as well. But when I was in there today, you're seeing just aisle after aisle now. Behind the lock and key, you have to wait for the store associate to come. So that's a customer experience issue. But what's much more important than all of that is organized retail crime. It impacts so many other crimes throughout our community. Think about all of the money that these crime syndicates are making from selling on the secondary market these stolen goods. That money then is going to fund narcotics and human trafficking and all sorts of unsavory things in our communities. So really, it is much more than just, you know, like we were saying, what people kind of think of shoplifting. We don't even like using that word shoplifting because it's really much more of an issue than that.
It's organized retail crime. It's more than just shoplifting because, yes, we're not concerned. And obviously, it's never a good thing to shoplift no matter where you are. But if you take, you know, a towel or something, that's not the focus here. This is a much larger scale that funds, like you mentioned, narcotics. I mean, gangs get involved here. And I know there are a number of retailers and police agencies across the country that you guys are already working hand in hand with.
That's right. It's all part of our network, and we're working to grow our network every single day. We're within some of the largest retailers in the United States. Law enforcement, our partners, can access the information that retailers share with them. So they don't have unfettered access into all of this information. It is really the retailer's evidence and the information as they put it into the platform, and then they can choose to share that with law enforcement. But what's really nice is once law enforcement receives this evidence and intelligence, it is all compiled in a very organized way that really helps them save a lot of time in investigating.
So, you know, to put it in simpler terms, essentially a detective that's in charge of, you know, maybe investigating theft or crime or wherever it may be in whatever jurisdiction, you're giving them a packet saying, here's your case right here. Essentially, that's what your software is doing.
The retailers are able to do that through our software. Yeah, and really, if you think about it, before this software was around, you might ask yourself, okay, so how did retailers do it before? There were lots of different ways that they would have done this, right? Maybe an Excel spreadsheet. It really depended on the retailer. I mean, some could just be, oh, let me jot down this note for the next loss prevention officer who's coming in on the next shift, or whatever the case might be. And a lot of stuff would fall through the cracks. A lot of times there would be these incidents, and people may assume, well, this is just a one-off. It's probably not a one-off. Let's go ahead and take a look at the characteristics of the crime. Let's see, when this could have occurred before. It's really about surfacing not only information about the individuals that are committing the crime, but also the characteristics, like I said, of the crime themselves, time of day, product stolen. All of that is important to connecting the dots.
And connecting the dots here, because this is not, and we know, we've run stories, year after year, that you don't want, the person behind the counter chasing down these people that are trying to steal. And most companies, we've done stories about how people get fired when they do that, which is obviously a sad situation there. But this is more to take, hey, instead of the old days, it was a guy wearing a hood that came in here and took this. Like that doesn't really help police a whole lot. This is details, things that they can compare with other cases that really may help connect the dots to prevent what's a larger network of maybe people or organizations that are creating a crime.
That's right. And another thing, too, that's so important here is, if the retailer is aware that someone who is entering their store right now is likely a repeat offender, there could be other tactics too, to where it doesn't have to get to the point where you were just mentioning. Of course, we don't want retailers, having to the store associates to go out and put themselves in danger. You never want that. But perhaps it could be, the store associate coming up to you as you're coming in, hey, how are you, or whatever, kind of like giving that
greeting you,
right? Greeting, like, okay, well,
I think maybe not today.
Here. Yeah, exactly. It's that sort of a thing. It's a psychological component to it as well.
Absolutely, and there's no doubt about that. And you talk about Auror, which again in 2012 was created in New Zealand. Which, by the way, if you follow Michael on Instagram or social media, I saw he was in New Zealand, and I was very jealous of that. What a tough start to the new company there. So it started in New Zealand in 2012. Made its way to the United States in 2019. So was it just they saw, because this is before you got there, obviously, they saw how it was working, they saw the success, they saw retailers jumping on board. Is that kind of how it's expanded? How most businesses expand, I suppose? It
was so incredible for me to get to go over there and see firsthand. We visited the New Zealand police when we were there as well, to understand, the origins of this company, how successful they have been in New Zealand. And it really is a fantastic success story where they were able to, move all around the world, and here in the United States we're growing so quickly, which is fantastic. But but it's not, it's an issue there, it's an issue everywhere. So they want to make sure.
Well, you see the success in one country, and obviously it's a successful software, it's a successful organization because you guys continue to expand, and I think that's proof in the pudding there. So again, for folks at home saying, well, this is for more police agencies or some of the biggest retailers in the world. Well, it's for us too, because I know it's maybe a minor inconvenience, but I'm in Denver the other day. I get a phone call from the wife saying, hey, on your way home from work, can you pick up some laundry detergent? I go to, our local grocery store, and I hit the button, and I'm waiting because they've had a problem with that. And that's just the minor inconvenience, but you talk about the bigger inconvenience is the safety in our community, which I think we really need to nail down here, and how it could become part of a larger crime. So we're just getting started here on this episode of Colorado Conversations. A lot to go. We're talking with Michael Konopasek. Of course, you know him as a former FOX31 employee, Denver International Airport, and now with a great company called Auror. So we're going to talk much more about that and how you guys are even expanding more on how you're helping our community, which I appreciate. So we'll talk about that coming up after the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back to this episode of Colorado Conversations. We're joined by a familiar face for a lot of you at home, Michael Konopasek, of course, former FOX31 employee here, Denver International Airport Communications Manager. So we had, you interviewed all the time out there at the airport. Maybe Dan DeRue out there bugging you or something like that.
Oh, a Dan DeRue interview. Oh, my God. That always keeps it fun in the mornings, right?
Yes. Yeah. That'll wake you up for sure. But now it's great to catch up with Kono because he's with a new company called Auror. Yeah. And again, if you're at home thinking, well, this is for those major retailers out there. This is for police. They're talking about organized retail crime. How does it impact me? There's so many different ways it impacts you. Let's give that stat real quick if you don't mind, because I know you talked about earlier, it's really 10% of people.
10% of the offenders in Denver, this is a local stat here, responsible for 71% of the retail crime.
So if you could wipe out just 10%, which is a small number of people, obviously we're talking about a small number of people that do this. In
terms of the crime,
then that wipes out 70% of our organized retail crime, which again, if you're thinking, that doesn't impact me, that's a major business losing money. No, it does impact you because gangs, violence, other things, and you have a stat on that.
And also, too, it can impact the store associates and also anyone who's shopping in a store at any point, because
that's a good point.
1 in 4, this is all our Auror retailer data, by the way, which is really great data. 1 in 4 retail crime events involve the use of weapons or threatening behavior. So I'm not saying 1 in 4, everyone has a weapon, right? Weapons or threatening behavior. And nobody wants that,
that's
right? 1 in 4. And that's a local stat.
We cover these stories every day, and, it's difficult sometimes, as you know, as a former reporter, but to be in a situation when something like that happens, that's something that can have an impact on you for a long, long time. So I think this is important for all of us. Again, if you're just thinking at home, that doesn't impact me. It certainly does. It's like I just mentioned, stolen vehicles. It was such an issue. If you watch the news, you know how much of a big issue that is. Not because of the one person that lost that vehicle, but because of all the other people from the other crimes that will be committed are going to be impacted here. So that's a good way to kind of compare that. So we're coming up here on the first week of August, and that's an important week for Auror. But by the way, I want to give out the website real quick because I checked it out right before Kono and I started talking, and it's fascinating, but we've got to spell it for you.
Yeah.
AUROR.co.
.co, not .com. .co.
Because it's pronounced Aura, but I want to spell that out for you because check out the website. It has all this information for you, and it's just really cool to see. Yeah. So I want to spell that out real quick. But National Blitz event coming up here the first week of August.
Yes.
And this is where you actually see some of the law enforcement partners that you guys are already partnering with, and kind of they explain how they're getting involved here.
Yeah, so just to start, we are not organizing this, but we underpin the success of this event. So the organizers are really fantastic people across the country. They're part of what's called ORCAs. Those are organized retail crime associations or alliances. There are ORCAs spread throughout the United States, and what they are is it's a combination of retail personnel, executives, loss prevention, and law enforcement. And the reason that these exist is basically to break down barriers, break down silos. That's the business that we're in as well, to make sure that they're surfacing all of the right information. So what's happening first week of August is they're doing the Blitz. It is really a threefold sort of effort. It's an education effort. It's also an enforcement effort, and it's also a collaboration effort. Those are the three main takeaways for this Blitz, and it's an opportunity to really focus in on the problem at hand. They have been successful in the past. It's just another way to make sure that we're solving this issue. And so we're encouraging our retailers and law enforcement to get onto that platform to make sure they're putting those events in timely, consistently, with as much information as possible to try to make as big of an impact as we can.
When we were first talking about this new venture that you're on and what the software is, what the company is, I was thinking to myself, how did we not have this before, or how do we not have this now? Because you have, again, a sales associate maybe writing a police report saying it was someone in a hood. That doesn't help us.
That doesn't
try to stop this bigger problem. So the fact that you guys are doing this, it's almost like, well, we need that. Why haven't we been doing that? Why isn't everyone doing that? So it certainly makes sense. This is a very obvious question.
Yeah.
How does law enforcement benefit from Auror?
Yeah, the biggest takeaway, and what's one of the best things, by the way, of this new job is being able to. I've always, when I was a reporter, I enjoyed covering crime matters, and enjoyed talking with police because, of course, have so much respect for them. And that's another thing is I'm able to meet police detectives now and leadership throughout the country. And what I am learning from them just in this first couple months of my new job is that it saves them a lot of time. Right? You think about how stretched police agencies are, and there's so many other things that are high on the priority list that are competing. And whenever something happens to us, we think, oh my gosh, I really need this to have the attention that it deserves. This is really a game changer for a lot of police departments, because what it does is, like we were talking about earlier, it is giving them all of that information that they're going to need, and it's very organized and detailed, and it's court standard sort of reporting methods, and so it really just saves officers so much time, and that's what they need.
It really helps them solve a case. It's essentially like, here's your case.
Yeah.
Now you got it. All that work, we did it for you. So again, I think it's great. So the Organized Retail Crime Associations, you talked about the ORCAs. There's actually one here locally, right? And that's just a group of, whether it's, as you mentioned, law enforcement, big retailers, people that are involved with preventing retail theft, things like that. Yeah,
that's right. And another thing, too, is that these ORCAs will have access then to our platform as well. So it really makes sure that we're covering all of our bases when it comes to law enforcement, to make sure that, again, that we're breaking down those silos. It's the collaboration is key. But I'm so happy that we're talking about this event that's happening in early August, because like I said, there's 3 different sort of pillars to it, and one of them is education. And that's what we're doing right now. Anyone watching this is going to know much more about organized retail crime. I'll say, before I started at this company, it's a term that I had heard of. It's something that I realized was an issue, but I didn't realize how big of an issue that it was.
Same, until we talked. I mean, again, it goes back to, if a vehicle's stolen, well, yeah, I feel bad for the person whose car was stolen, but this is a wider impact to our community. It's the crimes that occur after a vehicle is stolen, the crimes that occur after organized retail theft, that talks about narcotics and gangs and all that thing that, funds that, it's an important topic, and that's why we're sitting here talking about it. There's such another, and this just came out recently, you were telling me, but there's another great thing that you guys are having a major impact on that touches all of us. And I'm not talking about organized retail crime here. I'm talking about something else. We've got to tell you after the break what it's doing to help maybe find missing children in our community, which is absolutely incredible. So we're almost out of time, but stay with us. We'll be right back on this episode of Colorado Conversations. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Colorado Conversations. Again, a very familiar face for FOX31 viewers, Michael Konopasek. Him and I started about the same time. I was a little bit before him, and of course, you moved on to Denver International Airport, the communications manager there, and now you are the communications manager for Auror, which is spelled AUROR.co, by the way, if you want to go to their website, which is such an important tool for our community. So I love that we're talking about it. And hopefully that first week of August, when we talked about that Blitz, the last segment, we're going to have a full story on that coming up in the FOX31 newscast. So we'll have much more about it, I hope, because, again, this is just education.
Yeah, we love that.
We're getting the word out here, because we talked about organized retail crime and how it's 10%. Go ahead.
Yeah, 10% of the top offenders. That's just this Denver stat, responsible for 71%.
So think about it. And again, 10% of top offenders, that's a small number of people, because not everyone out there is committing crimes.
Right.
If we can get rid of that 10%, you're taking away 70% of this organized retail crime, which leads to drugs, weapons, crimes,
you name
gangs.
it. Yeah, it can all connect. Yeah,
that's how it's funded, things like that. But another huge impact in our community is you guys. Is it just recently this partnership was announced?
Yeah, we just put the press release out right before I got to the studio here. I'm so proud of this.
Yes.
The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is partnering with Auror to make sure that whenever an Amber Alert is issued, that our retailers will be looped into that with the vehicle information. So what we have license plate, or retailers, I should say, have these license plate readers. Not all of them, but a good number do in their parking lots. And so what happens is when an Amber Alert is issued, that information, if suspect vehicle is included in the Amber Alert, the license plate is included as well, that will be immediately put into the Auror platform. And then that way what happens is if there is a hit, at any number of retailers nationwide, that will then immediately notify the retailer, hey, the suspect vehicle has just been located in your parking lot. And at that point, that coordination can start happening, right? Police can then be involved. It's just another tool. We all know when Amber Alerts are issued, right? We hear them on the radio. We see the billboards on the interstates. We see them on TV. We get the alerts on our phones. We don't want there to be anything that is going to delay finding a missing child. Everyone can agree on that. And so this is just another way to make sure that we can surface that.
That's absolutely incredible. Yeah. And as you mentioned, time is of the essence in those cases, which, you're a former reporter just like me. And we would hear that from law enforcement over and over and over. Yes. You see the billboards, as you mentioned, you get the Amber Alerts on your phone. So again, this is some of the biggest retailers that that are out there. So if somebody pulls into a parking lot or something, it's going to be pinged, which I think is absolutely incredible. And then hopefully law enforcement can get involved and be on the scene right away. So that's awesome. That's just another addition to Aura that we can talk about here that's adding to our community. Great to see you. We're running out of time.
Oh, really? Darn, I
know.
Let's do another one.
It went so fast. So again, if you're just now joining us for this episode of Colorado Conversations, Michael Konopasek, a familiar face, communications manager for Aura. It's a great tool that kind of connects law enforcement with these massive retailers to prevent this organized retail crime, because it leads to bigger crimes in our community.
Yeah, and that we want safe stores and safe communities. And,
we do.
Yeah.
And I'm being a little selfish. We all can be. I don't want to wait 10 minutes just to get a bottle of laundry detergent at our stores, because it didn't used to be like that. Yeah. And I think that's another sign that this has become a massive problem, because you see stores locking now so many different things up that takes away from the sales associates doing what they need to be doing, and they have to come over for each person. So again, that's just another minor issue, but what you guys are doing is awesome.
Great.
Good to see you.
Good to see
you
too.
Congrats on the new opportunity, and make sure to give your higher-ups a thank you from us here in Denver, because you are making our community a safer place.
Thanks,
so thank
Drew.
you.
Appreciate it.
All right, and thank you for joining us for this episode of Colorado Conversations. We'll have to have Kono back on soon. What do you guys say? You in?
Let's do it. I like this stuff.
Right.
It's fun.
All right. He misses us here at Fox. Thanks, Kono. Great to see you.